For more than a decade, FTI has strived to become the leader in the aftermarket performance transmission and converter industry. We've joined forces with McLeod Driveline Components under the leadership of Top Fuel Funny Car pilot Paul Lee, and now have a larger distribution network, more resources, and more power. Come see us in the pits and ask how you can join the FTI family. It's not cheating, it is the competitive edge.
It's time for an inside look at the most powerful motorsport on the planet. WFO Radio, NHRA Nitro. This is WFO Radio.
FO Radio back on the air following the Dodge Power Brokers Mile High Nationals, the final one at Bandimere Speedway, the original Bandimere Speedway. I'm Joe Castello. If you're a fan of the National Hot Rod Association, drag racing, motorsports in general, any kind of human-based competition, you're going to want to check out this show because we are coming in off one of the greatest races maybe ever, certainly when it comes to fan attendance and engagement and emotion. Clay Millican going to join us on the show. The voice of the NHRA, Alan Reinhart, going to join us on the show. We're going to pepper Clay with questions. You're a big fan of Clay. You know, Clay's huge on the YouTubes, and he's always doing stuff, and we got some really interesting things to talk with Clay about. Second win of the season for Clay Millican, and Jimmo and everybody on that team really laid into it. They had themselves they got a good hot weather tune-up, and it was hot and tricky out there. Clay got the job done as well. We'll be speaking with Clay. So if you're a fan of Clay, drag racing, Top Fuel, Nitro, any of that stuff, share the show. I'm telling you, baby, share the show because we all have our Bandimere memories that we want to share in the next however long. Also, a little bonus for those of you that want to watch something that is unpredictable and out of the ordinary. You're going to want to stay tuned for this one as well because I am in South Florida, home of WFO Radio, Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood area, and we are in the middle of a wicked lightning storm. I'm telling you, at any moment, I could just get lit up right through this microphone. And wouldn't that be great for the ratings? It would be the final ratings, but it would be ratings nonetheless. And we would go out big time. So stick around for that. Yeah, you never know what is going to happen. All right, before we get to Alan, before we get to Clay, who is starting to sign on as well, I want to tell you about the people who genuinely make it possible for me to do this show. There's all these big broadcast networks out there. You know them all. And then there's WFO. We're the mom and pop store trying to keep up with the big corporations out there and doing a great job for over 10 years, thanks to sponsors like Foggett. That's right. For all the Lucas Oil Series racers out there, for all the bracket racers out there, for anyone who has an engine they want to store for any period of time, whether it be overnight in a trailer, which is basically a condensation box, which makes for microscopic corrosion on your cylinder walls, or for a longer period of time, Foggett does the job. You can go to foggett.com, pick up a can just like this, and I'm telling you, you're going to find all kinds of ulterior uses, whether it be as you protect your firearms to put them away or otherwise. Foggett, owned by Gary Stinnett and Steve Williams, a couple of great racers out there. They've innovated the product. They brought it to market. Gary got down to 4 cars at the Mile High Nationals. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing because he was looking pretty good. Go to foggett.com and get involved in their contingency program. Big thanks to those guys for being involved in the show. Phillips Connect, on board with WFO Radio. Phillips-Connect, Justin Ashley, the Ashley family, bringing in Mr. Epler. They're expanding their operation over the years, but it all comes back to smart trailer technology and really keeping people safe out there on the roads. If you've got trucks and trailers, you're in the transportation industry, like so many in the world of drag racing, why would you not want to invest in keeping them and everyone safe? Of course, people want to know, well, are the trucks on time? Sure. But what about safety? What about wheel hubs heating up? Is something about to go wrong with one of those vehicles that's going to cost you a whole lot more? An ounce of prevention, pound of cure. You know the old cliche. It's true for a reason. Go to phillips-connect.com and reach out to me if you want a personalized introduction. We've given several of those already. phillips-connect.com. FTI Performance Transmissions and Torque Converters. This is a Paul Lee company located in Florida. FTI is in Florida Transmission Incorporated, but they've been on the scene for a little more than 10 years. and building some of the best torque converters and transmissions in all of drag racing, especially if you've got huge power and you need reliability, plus consistency, which is why FTI is found on the door of so many of the winning race cars out there. You can look around, whether it be Top Sportsman, Top Dragster, Pro Modified, .90, Big Money Bracket Racing, or high-performance street cars, drag and drive. They are helping them out. Go to FTI to find out more information. And then there's Total Seal Piston Rings, the leader in ring seal technology. It's really interesting because Matt Hartford has gone all in on the marketing. Starting out a couple of years ago, came on board with WFO. Of course, we do the Hidden Horsepower podcast for them as well, and go out there and make appearances at the Engine Performance Expos. You can find most of that stuff on YouTube and the social medias, but it's all an exercise in making people understand, like forcing them to understand, they can't even avoid it, that the technology has changed. There are so many engine builders that stick with what they did years ago. And it's worked for them, right? Because, the bottom half, it's not that important. Well, the fact is that things have changed. And there's new technology that is being employed. And the folks at Total Seal, it's an untraditional thing to just share everything that you know. And that's what they're doing. They're sharing all the information. They're helping out people with rings that were not purchased at Total Seal, because they know that when you help someone achieve their goals, they're much more likely to come back to you the next time they need something. And that's happening with engine builders all across the country, and hopefully happening with our audience as well. Go to Total Seal to find out more, and definitely subscribe to the Hidden Horsepower podcast. Then there's Bernie's Speed Shop. Bernie's, this is Josh Hart. How about Josh Hart getting after it? 023, first round. Josh, bringing it. Bernie's is bringing it. Over 100,000 square feet of automotive paradise. They're buying, they're selling. If you have a car you want to sell on consignment, they can help you move it. If you want an e-bike, if you want a frame-off restoration to the 10th degree, Bernie Speed Shop does it all. Reach out to Josh. Tell him you heard about it on WFO, and at very least, follow their social media, bernies.com. Later on in the show, I'll tell you about samtech.edu. I'll tell you about Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School and the Dragster Adventure, and I'll tell you about Marvin Rodak's Coffee and Grills.com. Also, got a couple of spy shots. I'm out there at the track. I'm on the starting line. My phone buzzes. Chris Holbrook sending me photos of could be the first Ford Mustang Factory X car that we see at the NHRA. Put that out on our social media as well. We'll talk about that later. But right now, let's bring on the voice of the NHRA, do a little bit of debrief. Then we'll bring on Clay just moments from now as I see the numbers go up, right? I got to see the numbers go up before we bring on Clay. Maybe Clay will retweet us as well. But here's Alan Reinhart, probably very emotional after the track that he has been recommending for over 20 years. We saw our final race, and we saw a 3-day, I don't know if it's ever happened, Alan, and maybe unprecedented, sellout for 3 days in a row, capacity sellout. How you feeling, AR?
Sorry, retweeting.
Yeah, good job. Got to retweet the show, guys. That's how people know that we're on. Of course, they're all traveling still, and Jason Logan perhaps still stuck in the DFW airport. Sorry, Joe.
No, I'm good, Joe. I'm good. And yeah, you're right. It was kind of emotional, obviously, leaving there, pulling out on Sunday night, knowing that we're not going back, at least certainly not for a national event. So much history there, so much, I told a story on Sunday afternoon about going there to do my TV audition to go to work for Diamond P Sports 32 years ago. And basically, that place has played such a huge part in my career. As a general rule, I'm not an emotional guy. I'm more logical, right? It's like, oh, well, that's okay. Too bad. What's next? But that one stings a little bit. It's just, I still think, and I've said it time and time again, even empty, that place is majestic. And no matter what happens going forward, if the Bandimeres get involved in another drag strip in Denver, which they're certainly looking to do, and there's a lot of talk about it, but it's not cast in stone. They will build a spectacular facility, but it won't be on the side of a mountain, and it just won't have the same personality. On the other hand, having running water and having real facilities and stuff will be kind of nice. It's one thing that maybe a lot of people don't know. Being that high up and being where they are on the side of the mountain, that facility, 65 years, they've never had running water. They've never had like a sewer system. They've never had, so there have been things that they've had to deal with the entire time that, should they go forward and build a new facility, are going to be better. It's just that it won't have the same footprint. that place has always been pretty special.
So I have been pushing Tammy, who came on the show. Everybody loved Tammy being on the show. I've been pushing for the first domed racetrack, air-conditioned retractable dome racetrack. Like why not just have the counter rotators, all these different historic firsts that Bandimere Speedway has put forth. Why not the first retractable dome racetrack out by the airport so we can be in the air conditioning? Sounds good to me.
How do you get rid of the nitro fumes and the noise?
Retractable dome. That's like, Marlins Park. It opens, it closes,
Well, if it's open, you're not in the air conditioning, Joe. I mean, come on.
And then you close it. That's the thing. That's what makes it great. Put some air in and out. Listen, this is not new technology. We can do it.
I'm sure they would be happy to do it if you're happy to finance it. So yeah, let's go.
I will definitely talk to people about financing it. See what I can do. All right. So we got Clay on the show. He's down there already. So we might as well just bring him on, right? Like, why make Clay wait? I can see he looks like he's composing a tweet as well to his 300,000 Twitter followers, but now he's got the big smile on. So I'm just going to bring him on. Our top fuel winner at the final Dodge Power Brokers NHRA Mile High Nationals is this guy, Clay Millican. What's up, Clay?
I tell you what, I'm good. I actually had already tweeted earlier, but I just ignored a phone call, and I was texting the person to tell them I was on WFO with you two guys. And that's the person that was calling was one Aaron Polburn. And if you guys know drag racing, you may or may not know Aaron Polburn. He's kind of a big deal. So I didn't want to just totally ignore him and leave him hanging. But
yeah,
I got a little of that. I would disagree, Alan. He's done a lot. I mean, he's done it all, actually. But it's always trips me out that the camera goes the wrong way. So I'm trying to.
It really does. Well, so I'm going to do something.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing.
So everybody just hold tight. Watch what I do here. Okay. So we're going to get rid of Clay and we're going to get rid of Alan. Bye, Alan. And then we're going to bring Clay back. And then we're going to bring Alan back because it's better for me if Clay is in the middle of the two of us when I want to cut this later and maybe put it out there on reels or something like that, because Clay will be right in the middle, which nobody cares about me and Alan, but they definitely care about Clay. Clay, two wins in a season. I noticed everybody had their fresh and tight haircuts for the beginning of the Western Swing. You're no different. It worked out. I met your sisters. Tracy's out there watching right now. And you were just, after it was all over, you were emotionally spent. The significance of this, I want you to talk about it, and you even kicked it back to Gainesville for the 50th, how they were two connected. How were they connected?
Well, I mean, we all did not want to lose that racetrack, but at the same time, you can only win the last one time. You can only win the 50th at Gainesville one time. I made it to that final round. I lost on a hole shot to Richie Crampton, and, that hurt. And I did not want to have that happen, at Bandimere. And Alan and you, Joe, are way better on stats than I. I think that's 2 final rounds in the last 5 years. That winning was 3 final rounds in the last 5 years that I've been on the mountain in the final round, but the other 2 got away. And very much like Bristol, things happen for a reason. And our team winning that one at the final was pretty dang incredible. I had basically poked and begged and made my sisters come because, like Alan was saying, there's no other racetrack that is like that one, whether it's packed all 3 days or sitting empty. Just like Alan said, there's just something special about that place. And, to leave there with that Wally was pretty dang cool.
Well, it's kind of interesting because Joe and I talked about it for a number of years, all the way back to the XM days, about, if you're going to go to one race, you're going to go to Bandimere, and here's why. And again, we've had the conversation for years, but the first time he went to Denver, when we come around the corner on 470 and Rudy Road and went, there it is. And he went, okay, now I get it. You can tell somebody forever, but until they're actually there and go, holy smoke, they did this to build a drag strip. It's just amazing.
I mean, there's just nothing like it. And I don't want to just keep repeating everything you said, Alan, but they can build the most amazing facility there ever is. But unless they buy another mountain somewhere and duplicate what's there, it's just not ever going to be the same. That place is just, incredible. I mean, there's not a bad view anywhere, no matter where you go. And man, the nighttime deal. I mean, I told Tracy and Lee, I know y'all want to be down near the starting line when we go, but I said Friday night, you got to go to the grandstands. Well, they did do that, but here's what happened. They had nowhere to sit. But they still got to watch, from the grandstands. And I don't know what it is, that nighttime there. And yes, it's hard to race your car there. Yes, the tune-up's way different, all those things. But I still loved it. Even when we went there and left with no parts, over the years. Even going back so far, and I don't know what year this was, but I had a 1976 Dodge motorhome that I drug my Super Comp 440 powered dragster out there just because it was the Mile High Nationals. And I will add that I also went to Douglas, Wyoming. And thinking back about it, I would not drive that motorhome to Memphis, which is an hour away, and I drove it all the way out there. Me and my buddy Keelan Hooten, who is the guy that runs the trailer for Randy Lynn, who's actually, he missed the race this weekend. He got 100 miles away, got sick on us. He's doing much better, but he did spend the weekend in the hospital, and we're thinking about Keelan. But me and him made that trip all the way out there, and I made it several more times in my Super Comp car and never turned on many wind lights, but it's just, I don't know what it was one of them deals. I didn't have the money to do it. I didn't have a tow rig that really should do it, but we did it anyway because you had to race Bandimere.
That's awesome. First of all, shout out to Keelan, because I did hear that. A couple of people had a little, like skips in the matrix. Keelan was one of them. We're thinking about you. I didn't know before Chicago, the relationship, how tight that was, you and Keelan, until he came over, like, bawling his eyes out at the final round in Chicago. And then I got up to speed. I also want to point out that Lee is out there too. So both of your sisters, Tracy and Lee, are both there, and they're doing the equivalent of shouting fire in our chat section. And they wonder if you even know what the heck that's all about, Clay. They were telling me all about that this weekend, and I was moved by it, that they, two people who know a lot about drag racing, enjoy that. So anyway, you dragged them out there.
I certainly did. I mean, they have been with me, through my whole life, obviously. Everything racing, they've been there, done that. We've rode in pickup trucks together. We've done it all. As a family, we always have. But, it's just never worked out. Of the 5 opportunities, well, actually, I guess it's 20-something opportunities that I've been in final rounds, they've never been there. So to have them there for an NHRA win was no different than Keelan, and yes, my voice is still a little crackly. I probably have screamed a little bit Sunday, but, to have them there made a little bit of emotion come out of me, on the top end. And when I saw them, to do that with them there was pretty dang awesome. And Lee's right. I have no idea what y'all are talking about. I saw that pop up there.
Alan?
That's the Joe Castello jet car intro. I can't believe you don't know that. Joe, who, I'm telling you, he will come into the tower with a bat if somebody else wants to announce jet cars at the end of the night to get them out of the way because of how much that he loves that deal. I do want to tell you this, though, Clay. I don't root for anybody. When somebody wins, I'm happy for them. When somebody loses, I'm disappointed. I understand how it feels. I want to see a good race. I want to see a good show for the fans. I want everybody that bought a ticket to go home going, wow, I got to come see this again. But when you won Chicago, there was part of me that went, he better win another one. Otherwise, he's going to think I'm the jinx. And then he's going to go on the get Reinhart the heck out of here plan so I can win more races. So I wasn't disappointed in the least to see you win that race.
It's weird how close, and I won't be able to quote this, but, we as a team went to dinner Sunday night, and Jimbo pointed out how many similarities there were between Chicago and Denver. Just like round 1, we were third quick car. Round 2, we were second quick. That sort of thing is exactly the same. Chicago and Denver were the same. The difference for me from Chicago to winning Denver was we were horrible in qualifying at Chicago until the last run. We weren't even in the show. But Denver, I think qualifying average, we were number 2. And, the car was just rock solid. And, the first qualifying run, we did pull the tires loose after we got off the cooling pad, but that was going to be a planned 8th mile run anyway because of all the changes that you make for going to Denver, and we wanted to make sure we were safe. And I don't know what it is when Jim O finds something, it's just like rock solid, and I don't know how many times I said it, but when we win first round, we just win the race. That just seems to be the way to do it. But go ahead, Joe.
Alan, do you remember the conversation we had in the tower, which was a bit of a premonition to the deal? You mentioned
I do.
Justin Ashley and Clay Millican. This is why, I don't know, Sunday morning before the race. You mentioned that stat, and we laughed a little bit because Justin has done it like a bunch of times and Clay had done it once, except it happened again. The stat still rings true.
You and Justin are the 2 drivers in Top Fuel that have not lost in the second round or the semifinals all year long. Now, Justin has lost in a final, but if Justin wins first round, he goes to the final. If you win first round, you go to the final. So just win first round, Clay. It's simple. Look, here's the roadmap.
Yes, I mean, it's just weird how that goes. And Sunday, when we were driving to meet the team at dinner, Donna's pulling up the points, and she's like, dang it, we're only in 10th place. And I'm like, dang it, we've only won 8 rounds. It just happened to be 8 consecutive or whatever. If you go by first round, we've won them all. But, it's just unreal how good our car was, how solid the team was. I mean, we had one round, and Joe or Alan might be able to really help me out and remember this, but I don't know if it was between the second round and the semis. We were told we had an hour, and we were like 40 minutes into our service, and we've got an NHRA guy standing back there holding up 10 fingers going, you got 10 minutes. We hadn't even warmed the car up yet. Sometimes that gets pretty brutal. I ran in, started putting my fire suit on. I didn't think we would warm the car up. And the next thing I know, old Bruce Reed's poking his head in there saying, come on, we're ready to warm this thing up. So they were just on it.
Let's look at some of the round by round, because you mentioned Bruce Reed. I want to ask you about that, because there's this great international Australian connection, and now he's on full time with the team, with the exception of the Stampede Speed, which you say you're going to twist his arm and hopefully bring him out here. But let me just mention, it was first round, Tony Schumacher. You left first, went 384. Second round, Mike Salinas. That was a big win because those guys have been tough on you. You left first.
Stop.
Yeah.
When's the last time you beat Mike Salinas?
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you. I really couldn't. I am the world's worst statistician.
Do you want me to tell you?
Absolutely.
Brainerd in 21.
Wow.
He had beaten you 7 straight times, and there was actually 2 of those streaks that came to an end this week. Justin Ashley had beaten Steve Torrence 7 straight, going all the way back to 21 also, and that string came to an end. But looking up the stats, when I look at the head-to-head stuff pretty much between every round, and sometimes it's like, okay, well, they've run 4 times and they're 2-2.
Right.
That's not compelling. But when you look at it and you go, holy smokes, this guy hadn't beat him in a calendar year. And then when your win light comes on, it's like, okay, that's big. Now you're on to something special here.
I can tell you the one round I think of with Mike Salinas is Phoenix last year, final round. We went 69 in the semis. I think he did somewhere close to that. But final round, we both were terrible. We both I ran like 375 and he ran like 74 or something, I'm like, where'd that 69 go that we ran? That's the run I remember. All the other runs, I didn't know it was that many. That's crazy. He had my number, no doubt about it.
Well, now you got his. Go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry.
Well, it's just, that's a great point. But what I'm getting to, you run Sean Langdon in the semis. I had a conversation with Clay prior to that, and I had a conversation with Sean prior to that. A lot of mutual respect. Clay, you said he's a master at the craft and had a lot of positive things to say. I talked to Sean. I don't know. I know he was being honest. The way he told me, I was unsure of what he was telling, but he says, if we could tie, I would choose that, but one of us would have to win, and I want to win. He said something like that. But you left first on Sean. You left first on everybody in this given day, including Doug Coletta in the final round. You beat both Coletta cars. They had a great day, by the way. All Coletta cars making it to the semifinals. So it was a nice, resurgent, positive weekend. But confidence breeds confidence, and your driving was very special, leaving first all 4 rounds.
I appreciate that. And as a driver, you can't always watch race day. You just can't, because you do not know how sneaky the guys are. Some are very blatant. I mean, John Force is obvious because the car rolls in so deep that it's rocking back and forth and, whatever. But if I always kind of pay attention to qualifying and more so on myself because I can't control what anybody else does. But from qualifying through final round, I was between 50 and 67. So for me, that's a 17,000 spread, and I'm pretty dadgum happy with that. And if you get beat with that, you get beat with that. I mean, you look at Leah first round, she's 36 or whatever she was,
right,
and got beat. To me, and this really kind of came from Alan Johnson. Now, the cars have gotten a little better, but if a driver is shallow staged and he's 70 or better, that's what Alan Johnson considers the driver having done his job. Because these cars, a lot of people just don't understand that these cars, even though they're quickest in the world, they do not react very well. Now, over the years, the tuners, let me preface that with most tuners understand that. There are tuners out there that think that the driver is the fault. But let me just tell you guys, that is not always the case. The car has so much to do with the driver's reaction time. And so, for me, the thing to do is just be consistent as you possibly can. Keep that spread pretty small, from your best to your worst. And that's what I work on. I don't work on the tune-up, but I can promise you I have driven cars that will not react. And it makes the driver look bad. And, the stats show the driver is sucking, but it's not always the driver, because I'm also an old bracket racer, and I do know, and Alan and Joe, y'all do some bracket racing. If you put a Pro Tree trans brake in your car, you'll pick up a couple hundredths of reaction time. So the same thing can be done with the Top Fuel car, except they don't have a power glide, and it's a little more complicated to pick up the reaction time.
Yeah.
Well, I've told the story here before, Clay, but going back in the day when the Skull cars were driven by Ron Capps and Tommy Johnson, Ron Capps consistently was 2.5, 300ths quicker in reaction time than Tommy was, just across the board. Well, Don Perdone. I mean, if he hires you to do a job, he expects you to do the job. And Tommy was getting some heat about, you need to pick up the game, you need to do this. And he was convinced that he was hitting the gas on time. He's been driving these things long enough, right? If he screwed up, he knows. And he's convinced. Well, this was back in the time when the digital cameras were really just starting to become a thing out there. And one Friday night at the Motorplex, he and Ron just happened to line up next to each other on the qualifying run. And so when they go back, and again, going back to the incandescent bulbs, you got to be around a while to remember this. The frame rate was so fast on the cameras that it took 3 frames for the bulbs to come on. Yep. You'd start to see them glow, and then they'd be on bright. So they go back frame by frame, and typical deal, right? Capps left on Tommy by 300ths or whatever it was. And so they go back and go frame by frame, and you see the bulbs start to come on and come on and come on full and frame, and Tommy's butterflies go like this, and 2 frames later, Ron's butterflies go like this, and then Ron's flames comes up, and he leaves 300ths in front of Tommy, and he took the video in, and he said, "Fix the damn car."
Yep.
I'm hitting the gas. Fix the damn car.
Yeah.
But that was something that I don't think until really we got into the fast video and the stuff that we can do now, that a lot of people really did understand that there's that much difference between the way the cars react.
100%. I mean, I've got frame by frame video footage of the cars I've driven the last few years. I'm trying not to put names out there, but the car reaction time has picked up greatly over, the last year or so, a couple years, whatever.
But back in the days before, or even when everybody had the big old VHS cameras, you didn't have the technology to go back and figure that out. That's something that's come along in the last, whatever it's been now, 15 years or 18 years.
Yep. Yeah, we're getting old.
Yeah, you guys are. It's true. But kidding. But no, we make the car fast first, then figure out how to make it react, and it's all coming together. Let's talk about Bruce Reed. That's a great storyline. Clay, last year, you and Jimmo and Bruce and Phil and myself were part of that ePart Trade Industry Week that we did, which everyone is free to go back and find it. And it was like a United States, Australia, Nitro connection conversation that we had for about an hour. And so I got to know Bruce pretty well through that. You guys, there was a bond between Jimmo and Bruce that extends for years. And now Jimmo goes down there, and now Bruce, who's available, is coming up and helping your team. And he was there this weekend, and you guys were able to win. And now I guess he's with you for the rest of the year, except for one race, the Stampede of Speed, that he has to do something. But that's how is it being helpful? How is it helpful? And I'm sure every Drag Race Australia fan is probably going to be watching you.
Well, I mean, it's pretty cool because the people watching that do not know who Bruce Reed is, just Google Top Fuel in Australia, and the name Jim Reed is going to pop up, which is his dad. 19-time Australian Top Fuel world champion. Phil, which is Bruce's brother, I think is a 3-time champion. And Bruce, is the tuner. Now, he wasn't for all the 19. I mean,
7. He told me, I prepared myself with that. Yep. I was like, how many did you make the calls for? He said 7.
7. So he knows his stuff, so, and, I've not been there yet, but going to him and Jimmo's relationship, I don't know how many years ago it was, but the family bought a complete running operation from Castello. And so part of the deal with them buying the car was for them to come down there and run it. And I mean, I know you two certainly know that back in the day, Scott would go down there and drive, and, Grubby went down there and drove. And so the relationship started kind of with that. And Jimmo and Bruce, they just hit it off, and Jimmo still goes down there every year and helps. And Bruce would, Bruce would actually come up and help the Castello team while Jimmo was there. And it just is kind of a natural thing that wherever, all that yelling is kicking in on me. It was just natural when Jimmo become part of our team that we kind of got Bruce along with that. It's just that it went so well when he was here last year with helping get this new team all going that, we just kind of begged him and joked with him a little bit that you should just come for all the races. Well, he has a very successful business putting in swimming pools, and he now has gotten to the point where, his son is kind of running that a little more, and he felt comfortable enough to, I guess the best way to put it, he said, I just turned 60 years old and I don't want to be in a rocking chair thinking, man, I should have took that opportunity to go over there and race a lot. And so we're fortunate enough to have that knowledge. I mean, basically the guy's entire life has been around Top Fuel dragsters, and, he may be racing on different tracks, did that sort of thing in a different country, but there's no replacement for the years of experience that he has around nitro cars, And Jimmo, yes, is making the calls, but it's an invaluable thing for Jimmo to say, I'm thinking about this. What do you think? Well, he's been doing that with me, and all I can give him is what I call the butt-o-meter. Well, I know when we do this, it does that, but I'm not a tuner, and, Bruce Reed is.
In the history of nitro drag racing, you've been around a while, I've been around a while. Have you ever heard anybody say, gee, I wish we had a few less really smart people to help us?
You're 100% correct. And that's the very thing, I was kind of the one that initially started asking, Jimmo, like, hey, do you think we could get him to come more often? And Jimmo's like, man, he's got such a big business and they race as a family. And I'll tell the truth, I haven't said this. I made that phone call. I'm the one that did it. I spent the however many dollars per minute it is to call down there. And I'm like, hey, Bruce, what would you think? And so it's been a running joke that I went behind Jimmo's back and hired another crew chief, basically, but in a fun way, And so it went from there to, asking Rick Ware and Robbie Benton, the people that run our team. And they actually had made many comments that they could see a difference in the kids working on the car when Bruce was there, because where Jimmo was totally focused on what's happening, with all the data, Bruce is able to kind of bounce back and forth. Even though we got Jesse Snyder, who's an amazing car chief, they were all for it. So I'm the guy that went behind Jimmo's back and helped make that happen.
Good call. And it's just the evolution of the sport, right? Everybody has to have, like Mike Green brings on Tommy D. And to have someone else there to just kind of bounce ideas off of and play devil's advocate in a certain moment. Like everybody seems to have it. All the really good teams seem to have that relationship. And so it only makes sense to emulate it. And, we'll see how it goes down the stretch.
So I got one more thing on that. Donna literally just poked her head in here. The deciding factor on Bruce coming is his soon-to-be wife, Kim. She kind of runs the office, and she's here right now, but she's going to go home in a couple weeks. And so very much like my business, which is Clay Millican Racing, I don't really run that. Donna does, and I think that's kind of the way it is. Bruce, Kim runs it, and Kim was the deciding factor on him making the decision to come here for all the races with the exception of Dallas.
Excellent. Well, good deal. All right, I looked at the points. You're 10th in the standings, but you've closed up the gap a lot, and two of the racers that you beat are now behind you, Tony, Schumacher, and Sean. It's kind of all irrelevant, though, because everybody makes the countdown if you show up at these races, but you want to climb as high as you possibly can, and also you are the only Top Fuel racer with a shot at sweeping the Western Swing, which is kind of cool.
It really is. Again, back to the stats that I can't remember. We made the final at Denver a few years ago and made the final at the next race. Didn't win either one of them, but I have made two finals on the Western Swing. And again, Alan called it. All we need to do is win first round. We got the roadmap from there, so it's pretty easy.
Cake. Actually, you need to win first round, and you need to make sure Justin doesn't. Otherwise,
yeah, you're right.
If you guys both win first round, if you're on the same side of the ladder, it's going to be, somebody's streak is coming to an end right here, right now.
Oh, man. But I'm so looking forward to it. And this is just me. Again, I just told you I don't know how to tune these cars, but I really feel like, and we've seen this over the years from other teams, that they find something when going to that thin air that plays into their favor when you go back to sea level. So I kind of think we may have done that just in the power level that we were trying to be at this weekend and what we were doing with the stops on the clutch and that sort of thing. And I also want to point out that if you look at the speeds of our car, again, it made the trip down the racetrack every run except for the very first qualifying run. We never made it all the way to the finish line. It was deadly consistent at knocking the teeth off the belt at the same spot every single run. But luckily, the car was running good enough early, that didn't happen. But we won't have that problem when we get back to sea level because, like everybody, we've got the compression at the max and we got the blower spinning fast as we dare to spin it. And that was no fault of the belt. That's just a fault of racing at whatever it was, 8,900 feet corrected altitude. That's just part of it.
Yeah.
Which for Denver's good. There have been times when we've been up there, it's been 10,600 feet.
For sure. For sure. Go ahead. I got to find a picture to show you guys.
Okay. Well, exactly. Crazy. I got a couple I just want to share. Just the emotions of the victory. This is the media center where you're doing a great deal. Your eyes could have been a little better. I just couldn't see that because I didn't have reading glasses. But like this one right here, Clay, when it was all over, you had to sit down. You had to sit down. You've got a smile up on your face. The Johnny Trophy, which is right next to you. I don't know if people could see it. We should have taken a better photo of that. Maybe you got one. But or you probably have it there in your hands. They did so much to make this special. And in the end, like the wake of it all, that aura of accomplishment that was around you, carrying two amazing trophies, walking out of the media center, like that moment, that is what I'm going to remember forever.
Well, for me, it's, just the entire weekend. But one of the special things was walking up on the stage with Alan and then him having, John Bandimere walk up there and hand me that trophy. And immediately I told Stacy, who's kind of runs the drag race side of things for Rick Ware Racing, the moment I walked off that stage with Alan, I told Stacy, I said, that Wally can go home to Rick Ware, but this trophy right here is going to Drummond's, Tennessee. That's where it's at. That was super special. I mean, I can't imagine what that entire family's going through. And if I'm correct on this, there's 14 Bandimere family members that work there. I just can't imagine, what it was like Sunday night going, wow, this was crazy. We've never had an event like this. And knowing we won't ever again, but 14 family members is what I think works there. Alan, you can tell me better, but
that sounds about right.
All the things that family has done for drag racing is incredible. I mean, you kind of mentioned them a little bit before we got going here, Joe, the tire rotator, the junior drags. I mean, the list goes on and on. I mean, think about just the improvements in traction at racetracks all over the world that basically come from the Bandimere family. It's insane.
I'm sure they're a little bit emotional, but I don't think it's really going to kick in until Halloween. They still have a pretty full slate of stuff going on up through Halloween, and their focus is always the next event. I mean, as good as this one was, they're not going to go, okay, well, we can coast from here. They're going to look at whatever the next event is and how do we make this one special, and how do we make sure this is good, and how do we make sure. But I do think that Halloween, when they wander out of there on Halloween and it's over, that's going to be a pretty emotional deal. Yeah, for John, John Jr., he's been married for 62 years, been working at the racetrack for 65 years.
Yeah.
And his wife told me a really funny story, and I don't know, I probably shouldn't tell this, but what are they going to do, not invite me back? I was speaking to her, Lorraine, in one of the suites. We're having lunch, and talked about just unbelievable, the whole relationship, and behind every good man kind of thing. And she said, "Let me tell you something funny." She said, "John Sr. and his wife did not like me. They didn't think much of me. They didn't care for me." And I said, "Really?" And she said, "Try this on for size. We got married at 8 o'clock on Saturday night." Now, this is 62 years ago, but she said, "We got married at 8 o'clock on Saturday night." And I said, "Why so late?" She said, "Because they wouldn't let him off work. He had to work until 6.
That's pretty crazy. Oh,
but
unreal.
That's been a part of their life for the whole year. And then for their basically, their whole marriage. But then you look at Jonna, you look at Sporty, you look at Tammy. It's been a part of their life for their entire lives.
Yeah.
And their kids and the next generation. So when it comes time that we don't get to go back to the racetrack again, period, end of chapter, that's going to be a pretty emotional deal, I think.
Oh, I mean, for sure. I grew up I said this when I went up there with you. I grew up in a family business. My grandfather started I don't even know how many years, well over 50 years. And, it finally closed. And, it's a big deal for the entire family, because Tracy and Lee and our entire life was at that tiny little grocery store, and we were part of the decision to finally close it because things like Walmart came about in those, 60 some years that the store was open, and mom and daddy were simply doing it because that's all they knew, so it was, those family things get really, really hard, to walk away from, and it sometimes the financial side of it is not the deciding factor. It's the emotional side of it. That's the hard part. And, for me, that was what immediately came to mind, once the blinking light was on in my lane was, wow, it'll be the last NHRA national event they have there, so, and it took me right back to the day that mom and daddy finally decided to flip that close sign over that they hung on the door every night for however many years it was. So one of the girls on here can tell you exactly how many years the store was open, but basically, we knew no different other than that tiny little grocery store.
Now, you were gonna share a photo, Clay.
Yes.
We don't want to dominate you for the whole day. What are you going to show us? Is it going to make?
So, we were kind of talking about cars and consistency and that sort of thing. So what I'm about to show you here, this is Q3, which in my opinion, at the moment may have been run of the year in race conditions. Obviously, Brittany's run Saturday or Friday night, whenever that was, at 72 was insane. But we went 379 in the heat, and the second best car went 388, which was Doug Coletta. But what I'm showing you here, this is 5 consecutive runs.
Whoa.
Laid on top of one another. 5 consecutive runs from the weekend. That is Q3 and then rounds 1 through 4. And if you look wherever it is at the end down there where the car shuts off, all of those are the belt coming off. But that's how consistent the car was this weekend. That's how good Jimmo and Bruce had that thing running, and obviously, all the kids out there putting it together. That's like bracket car kind of drive shafts overlays right there.
It's pretty impressive stuff, no doubt about it. Especially, the heat on the track, didn't change a ton, and that certainly helps a little bit.
Yes.
Even though it was in the 80s and then went into the 90s a little bit on Sunday, it still wasn't, we've certainly had bigger swings than that, and that lets them get into that comfort zone. When the car's repeating like that, they just, put it on repeat, fill it with gas and pack the parachutes and send it again.
Yep. And a part of the tricky part of that place, it's a great thing and tricky at the same time, is the cooling under the first 300 feet of that racetrack changes. It's about 20 degrees difference. Mm-hmm. So, you hit the thing pretty hard early, and then you got to figure out how to calm it down when you drop off of that. That's part of the challenge of that place besides the altitude.
All right. Before we let you go, Clay, big picture, we're getting to go time, right? The Western Swing, we say it every year on this show. Alan brings it up, and we think about it. If you're a championship contender, you really need to have your act together by the Western Swing. Now, this year's a little different because we've got Kansas and Brainerd before the U.S. Nationals, but then here we go. You're into the countdown. So, Rick Ware, you said it. He's given you everything you need. You've proven it with some wins on the racetrack. You've talked about wanting to not let opportunities pass because it's right there before you. So speak on the championship a little bit. Is this a team that is a genuine threat to win the countdown and win a world championship?
Well, to be honest with you, I'm not a big points studying guy, but if you purely look at the points and what we've done, you would think probably not. Here I am saying that we've won 2 races, but we have failed to, get by first round with the exception of those 2. But having watched what Jimmo has been able to do when he finds it, he's deadly, So we just said that he joked about this at dinner. He's like, I just got to figure out how to win first round, and the rest of the day's easy. That's all there is to it. But I have full confidence that we will make our way, into the hunt by the end of the year. I still look at it as we need to be in the top 10. That's kind of what I always look at because we've done that for so many years where you had to be inside the top 10. When we leave Indy, if we're inside the top 10 by a few spots, I'll be more confident about it. But I have full confidence that we will start winning more first rounds, and I do not think we have finished winning races for the year. And the points will take care of themselves if you keep, coming home with Wallies. It makes it easy, but it's kind of why I don't really follow the points that much. I just never have.
And this person wants to know when you're going to bring back your weekly show. They're never satisfied, Clay. You should know this by now, right? Like you launch this YouTube channel and you're doing all kinds of stuff and behind the scenes and finding cars and GTOs and all of that. And this person wants the weekly show back. Is that coming back?
Probably not. And you two guys, because y'all do this, will completely understand why. I find it very difficult to line up guests to come on the show. And then getting them scheduled to do it became so increasingly difficult. I just found that I spent more time just trying to get somebody to work out their schedule to do it than it just became too hard, to be honest with you. And as Donna will tell you, content now rules the world here. I've become such a YouTube junkie, sharing everything we do. And it's a lot of fun because I'm actually getting to work on cars or showing what's going on at the racetrack. And the YouTube channel just continues to grow. And I don't know. I did have fun doing that, and I shouldn't say it'll never come back, but
what about
probably not until I hang up my helmet.
What about like a spinoff, like the Millican sisters show? Because Tracy says like maybe Lee and I can do the show over the week. Like they could take it over, like the Millican sisters. Is that, I don't know, that could be dangerous for you. I don't know, like Clay, childhood stories. Kind of a brother were you?
Man. Yeah, you need to have them on for that question.
Yeah. All right. Well,
but should they take over, what we call the DNC show, which was Donna and Clay? I think it should absolutely be the Tracy and Lee show, no doubt about it. I think I would even go so far as to give them my access to my Facebook where they could just log in. Lee just told a lie. I'm pretty sure Lee's full of it.
She says she's shy. She's on their line.
Yeah. Have y'all met a Millican yet that don't talk a lot? Probably not.
Hey, thank you very much for spending time with us. Congratulations. Tremendous victory. The way you did it was awesome. And you get to go after it again just a couple of hours from now as we head up to the Flav-R-Pac Northwest Nationals at Pacific Raceways. Another amazing facility, one that has been saved from the end a couple of times. And so we're happy to go up there and put on a show for those fans.
Well, I'm certainly looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing y'all. But more than anything, I'm looking forward to another text Sunday night that says, "Don't you just love race day?"
It's up to you. I send it every week.
That's it.
I enjoy getting those texts because if you get that text from Alan, that means you're riding home with Jack Jones.
There you go. Clay, thank you very much. Appreciate you.
Thank you,
See you
guys.
soon.
See ya.
There he goes, Clay Millican, Top Fuel winner at the final Dodge Mile High Nationals at Bandimere Speedway. Amazing. And he was so emotional. It was great. I didn't get to show him this, though. One of his crew guys being attacked viciously by a dog at the end of the race. Look at this, Alan. This is victory right here. I should have showed Clay that, unfortunately, but I was having a little internet-based issue. No, they were testing an emotional support dog out there, and it worked. But any final thoughts on Clay's win before we move on? I want to get your thoughts on a couple of other things, including a bizarre stat that I was unaware of.
No, not really. I mean, Clay, as he showed, they found a combination that worked and didn't mess with it. I think that they were going up there with the attitude of, we know this is what we can run. And if somebody can beat us, let them beat us. But we're not going to go up there and beat ourselves. We've got a car that's going to go down the racetrack. That's what we're going to do. And that's exactly what they did. And, it's interesting. Sometimes, that's the best approach to take. That was Dick LaHaye's approach for years and years and years. Dick LaHaye never went to the starting line trying to be low ET. He never went to the starting line trying to set the track record. He went to the starting line to go down the racetrack. And if his car didn't make it, he was upset about that. But he would go, and again, whatever the number is, he would go up the starting line saying, I believe I can run 395. And if you think you can run quicker than that, then fine. You win. I'll see you next week. But I'm not going to go up there, smoke the tires, and let you get away with running 450. I'm going to go run what I can run. And that's an amazing strength. 5 runs that look like just a mirror overlay. And obviously it worked, and especially with a place as tricky as Denver. Go to the finish line and take your chances, because if you don't go to the finish line, your chances go down considerably.
And thank you to Clay for sharing that. That's the kind of stuff people are a little protective about, and they just put it out there, which is great. Let's talk a little funny car. Matt Hagan, weird stat, right? Hagan goes out there. He was there all week. I saw him a little bit early in the week. He's doing the ride and drives with the Dodge people. Good stuff. Goes out there, gets it done in the final round, wins the Mission Foods Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge. Beat Chris King, got a bye, beat Caps in the semis, and then Alexis in the final round. We were in the media center, Alan, and Ashley Wilson from Tony Stewart got a text from Densmore that said that the latter was identical to Hagan's 2021 win. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? Even Chris King? And we went to the 2021 results. In 2021, Hagan beat Chris King in the first round as the #1 qualifier to earn a bye run in the second round, where he faced Caps in the semis to go on to beat Alexis in the final. It was a mirror image, or it was just an exact duplicate of his 2021 win, which was stunning and shocking to me. And I wanted to share that because how bizarre is that?
That is bizarre. You want to hear something else that's bizarre? Matt Hagan is the first #1 qualifier all year to make it to the final round. Right. Is that crazy?
Yes.
Even to make an appearance in the final round. You want to know the last #1 qualifier that won the race?
What? Who?
Robert Height last year in St. Louis.
St. Louis?
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Yes. But that shows you what's going on out there in Funny Car.
I was talking to Guido earlier in the weekend, and I had to follow up on something else that he and I have been working on a little bit, and I said, what do you think? And he said, and I said, well, let me give you the key to winning. Don't qualify number one. And he said, yeah, isn't that crazy? Because Guido doesn't miss much stuff. I don't know that he could have told you Robert was the last guy to win, but he knew that a number one qualifier hadn't made the final round all year in funny car category, which is just ludicrous. And, well, now Matt ruined that. So, of course, it is also the first time this year that Matt has qualified number one. So if they'd have done a little better job on Friday night, maybe that wouldn't have gone so long.
Right. Amazing day of racing, though. Just thoughts on funny car beyond Matt. Alexis had herself an interesting day, like doing what it took to win. The Coletta cars, 3 cars in the semis. I spoke with Chad, before those semifinal matchups, and I was like, when was the last time you had 3 cars make the semis? He goes, Joe, I can't remember the last time we had 3 cars get out of the first round. And you can say that. And he goes, honestly, I'm happy. He goes, we're happy. Like, it's moving. We're going in the right direction. Things are better. They're not where they need to be, but they're better and getting better. And that feels good. And it was like it was great that Chad was like so like straightforward with the way they were dealing with the situation and coming at the right time. Other thoughts in the funny car category? The Mission Foods race is still awesome.
Well, there was the 008 light in the semis. I mean, I really believe that sometimes, whether it's, what do you want to call it, divine intervention, good fortune, whatever. I remember Indy a few years ago when I want to say Tony Schumacher had a 002 light or something like that in one round with it, that was about the only way he was going to win it. And in the press room, somebody said, hey, tell me about that 002. And he said, that wasn't me. That was God. He said, I never even told my foot to move. My foot just took off. And I went, oh, look, the light's on. And sometimes, for whatever reason, just in those moments, you get one of those gifts. I mean, I don't know what else to call it, that went your way, went Matt's way this time. And, if you're Ron Capps, you're looking at that time slip going, come on, man, really? Yeah. But you get one of those every once in a while. And if you end up being the guy that gets your teeth kicked in on that run, you just go, you know what? That's going to happen to me at some point, and that's when I'm going to remember this.
Yeah, the racing gods. That's whenever I reference them. I know a lot of people don't. Some people, you shouldn't mention racing gods because real God and like real God is not really involved in drag racing, in my opinion. The racing gods are, and they are the ones that turn that 008 green or red, right? Like they decide, and there's no way you can change their mind except through hard work. Pro Stock. Troy Coughlin Jr. makes it easy. Yeah. We had a sweep of the Mission Foods race in funny car and in Pro Stock. And what a day he had. Troy Coughlin Jr. really got after it. Takes down Dallas Glenn in the final round. Those reaction times 15 to a 19 and had the best car all weekend long, really. Erica was number 1. Consistency. Troy was 4. They were really strong every run down the racetrack.
Yeah, and Troy's car was running big speed also. I don't know if they had a different gear in it or a different tire in it, but he was a mile an hour faster than pretty much everybody in Pro Stock all weekend. And, if you don't follow Pro Stock, that may not sound like a big deal, but 1 mile an hour in Pro Stock is a big deal. That's basically, 40 horsepower without the rev limiter and blah, blah, blah. But when your car's running like that, I also think it's crazy. The Too Fast, Too Tasty challenge, there are 3 head-to-head runs, right? I mean, you run Jason against Jason is 1, and then Joe against Alan is 1, and then Joe against Jason in the final. There's 3 runs. 2 of them were decided on a perfect light, which is ludicrous. But I think that in itself is living proof how seriously the drivers are taking that. And I'll be flat honest. When they first announced the program, you could put me on the list of people that gone, I don't know how many people are going to care about this, right? I mean, is it nice to have extra money? Yes, but when I'm qualifying because all I really care about is what happens on Sunday, and I really don't think there's going to be a whole lot of focus put to this. Well, I was proven wrong immediately, going all the way back to Phoenix when Steve Torrence double-stepped and red-lit in the first round of the thing. That the mentality of the racers is we're racing for something. It's cash, it's points, it's tortilla chips, whatever, but this is not a qualifying run. This is a racing run. And that we need to get after it. And I think that it's been just a tremendous add to the Saturday program for the NHRA fans.
And when we are counting points at the end of the year, I don't know where or how, but I think it will factor in somewhere.
How many points did Caps win by last year?
2.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's going to make a big difference, and people are taking it serious. It's fun. the biggest challenge, I've had a couple of people, like I'm behind the scenes, say, like, do people understand it? And, that's our job. And it's the job of other race fans. There are people, if you sit in the stands, they still think Austin Coyle is tuning John Force. Like, they're like, yeah, man, Austin Coyle is out there doing it. It's like, oh my gosh, you guys really don't watch the shows or listen to anything. And there are people who don't. They just go to watch the cars, they buy a ticket, and they know what they know, and that's good. But as people understand, it's racing for real. These are valuable points that are going to the championship. It's going to become more intense, and I appreciate it. Yeah, Pro Stock was great. All around, of course, the nickname for Aaron Stanfield and Troy Coughlin, as they are in that little bubble of elite motorsports sub-team, is Mustard and Mayo. They shared that with me as they ran in the final round of the Mission Foods, Mustard and Mayo. They actually had one of Troy's race engines in Aaron's car. They rattled the tires to try to get him off that spot so that they wouldn't have to run each other first round, which didn't work. And they had to run each other first round again, Mustard and Mayo. Just kind of interesting. Then Pro Stock Motorcycle. Okay.
So wait a minute. Does that make Erica Ketchup?
That's and Bo too, I guess, right? Ketchup, Mayo, Mustard.
Okay.
What do you think of Bo's car being red just like Erica's? Should they switch it up so we could tell the difference between the two of them?
I don't know. If I was in charge of Bo's car, I'd switch something, because something. They certainly don't have a horsepower problem. They certainly don't have a driver problem, but they certainly have a Sunday, jinx or something problem. So I would switch up something if it means fine, paint it green and make him pickles. I don't care. But yes, I would switch up something.
Well, there it is. Let's just leave it there, because I know people have been buzzing. I've run into a lot of people who are confused. Bo or Erica together. She's obviously the 5-time champ. She's owned that red scheme for a long time. Maybe they need to switch it up. Of course, Jason Johnson having a big birthday is probably involved with that as well.
Yeah, that was the next thing I was going to say. If you're Jason Johnson and your brand is red, people expect you to be associated with the color red. And if he comes in there and says, I want 2 red cars, then nobody's telling him no.
Right, exactly. Pro Stock
Motorcycle. Pickles, though.
If they're going to go with a theme, go all out. Mayo, mustard, ketchup, Bo, whatever he happens to be. We'll find out, I guess, soon enough. So Gage Herrera was out, lost at sea, and now he's back. He wins. But Hector Arana really had the best bike throughout the weekend. Had a problem, deadheaded, wouldn't shift. He said he hit the button 5 times, and then it just was over at that point. Angie goes up against Gage. Angie's 003 red. Gage was 10, so she wasn't going to beat him even if she was trip zip. And Gage Herrera is back after taking a couple of races off from the winter circuit.
Well, and it was Denver, so let's see what happens when they get to Seattle. I think it's going to be fun, one, because the bikes have never run Seattle, so nobody's got a notebook on the place, but we're going to be back at sea level then. The performance of the 4-cylinders was pretty impressive to me. The Suzukis that were running in the ozone, or in the ozone and in the 10s and low teens, Hector's bike just crushed them. But setting the track record at 704 and then coming back and running a 708, the 2 quickest runs in the history of the mountain at the time. But the Suzukis ran very well up on the mountain, which is not, the mountain usually has been the playground for the V-twins, simply because they have more cubic inches. If there's less oxygen in the air, the more cubic inches you have, the advantage that you're going to have, and that's the way that it's played out. But Gage looked like he was, spot back on Sunday. Let's go back out to Seattle now and see what happens there. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, well, we're hours away. Other winners, Scott Burton, John Superstock, John Breimer. I think that was a back-to-back for Breimer.
John was back-to-back, yeah. And Bruton had won the thing as well. That's Bad Brad's dad. And, he lives in Golden, Colorado, lives right around the corner, been racing there forever and ever, and that's where he got his kids started. I was busting Brad's chops about not being there. I said, I got to work, I got to make a living. He sent me a text. He said, hey, look, you idiot, there's a double divisional at Woodburn, and I'm running for a division championship. And I went, oh, yeah, okay, that probably counts. But the fact that a lot of those trophies stayed in Colorado, and you could tell how much pride the Colorado racers and the Denver area racers especially had in the fact that we kept this one here. We're not going to let somebody take it away. And yeah, John Breimer back-to-back, pretty impressive.
Dale Marr in Super Comp, Norm Brungart in Super Gas, Dan Smith in Super Street, Bree Berg got it done in Top Sportsman, Josh Herman, he's part of the fam, right? Top Dragster. Chris Vang, Mountain Motor Pro Stock win over Erica. They had put so much and Gerard Richard getting the job done in the Dodge Shootout. And we got to mention Matt Smith winning the Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge, Tommy Johans in the Mile High Shootout of 10.5. But Chris Vang, Dave Kramer wins 2 Wallies because he got the Never Rest Award. Poor guy got broken.
Yeah, he didn't want that one.
No, broken ribs. Early in the, it was like a week or 2 ago. They still brought out, I think, 6 cars, and then were able to win one on the track with the mountain motor car. That's cool for the Kramer family. They had highly prioritized winning something at this final race, and they won Mountain Motor Pro Stock.
And I don't know how many people could have left more heartbroken than Erica, because that place, she's just never had any success there for all that she's done everywhere in her career. And obviously the elite guys had cars that were running good up there. Heck, they won the thing with Junior, but never won it with the 500-inch car. Having a chance to drive the mountain motor car was the second opportunity. Getting in the final there was like one last shot to maybe win something in Denver, and she couldn't get it done. And I know that disappointed her, because for all of the success that she's had, as many times that she's been to that racetrack and not be able to close it was heartbreaking for her.
Okay, before we preview Pacific Raceways, a quick thought. I just want to show you Holbrook's car. He sent it to me, and it gets me excited that Factory X is coming. And here's another one. This is a Mustang, and I think it looks pretty awesome. We're going to line something like this up against Stanfield's machine when we get 6, 8, 10, 16. This thing is going to be pretty spectacular.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. They're obviously, guys are burning up a whole lot of gasoline in a dyno room, and now that everybody knows what the package, what the thing, and that was part of the holdup is, some of the rules hadn't been finalized, and nobody wanted to go out and spend the money that you spend to build one of these things, and then be, we decided that. So once the rules package finally got locked down, and there are probably a dozen of those things under construction, at some level of completion right now. So it won't be long before we're going to be actually seeing those things out there battling it out head to head.
Pacific Raceways, another classic track, not a frills track. This is like going to Fenway Park, right? Old school drag racing, an amazing forest, and some really passionate diehard fans and owners.
And a lot of the Canadian fans, too. I've been hearing recently from a lot of the Canadian fans that are really looking forward to coming down and being a part of this. For a couple of years, they couldn't come down. And now that the borders are open again, they're going to come down, and I think the place is going to be swamped. I don't know that they'll be swinging from the rafters quite like they were at Bandimere, but I do believe we're going to have a full house up there. Looks like the weather's going to be warm, but not miserable. So if that's the case, then it should be fun. That place has always been a pretty good performance place, especially since Jason Fiorito made the investment to resurface the track, because there were a number of years when we were going there when it was pretty much a one-lane track. There was a problem on the left lane, and the previous ownership group, with under threat of being run out of town literally every week, wasn't willing to make the investment to go out there and fix it, because it's a deal like, if you're going to spend a pile of money and then you're going to end up literally being shut down in the next 6 months, it didn't make any sense. And when Jason took the thing over and got the plan in place, I think that has made it even more special. And it's one of the old school tracks. Like Clay said, well, you can't sweep the swing if you don't win the first one. But I also think that the fans up there are going to get to see Pro Stock Motorcycle for the first time, and that's going to be big, because as well as I do, when the weather is nice, how many motorcycles are in the parking lot up there on the spectator side?
Tons.
I mean, it is amazing how many people up there ride when the weather's nice, and now they're going to have a chance to see the Pro Stock motorcycles for the first time. So I think that's going to be a real big hit.
Can't wait. Alan, great job as usual. Appreciate you, and we're going to be back at it in just a couple hours, so rest that voice.
Won't be long. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks, Joe. Travel safe, and I will see you in Seattle.
See you in Seattle later. There he goes. The voice of the NHRA, Alan Reinhart, joins us each week right here on WFO Radio, and Clay Millican. Now, I've got a couple of final thoughts, and I want to hear your comments, read your comments as well. So put them in the chat section. Got a couple of photos that I'm going to just kind of tick through and comment on a few things as we close the story. That is Bandimere Speedway. You see this cool sign right here? Tammy gave that to me as a gift for having her on the show, which I thought was amazing. Also unnecessary, but it now has a home in the studio, 65 years of Bandimere Speedway. And just want to get in on some of the emotion. But I do want to mention to everybody out there watching the show, we always have new viewers, new listeners. The podcast is still where our largest audience is, which is tremendous. My audio only background. So if you're an Apple Podcast, Spotify, SoundCloud person, and you go over the road or you work or you're looking for entertainment, don't forget our podcast. And we love when you write a review. That helps us in the podcast themes. You can find all the subscriptions on WFOradio.com, our website, which we never mention because what's the point? But everything is there. We have feeds out there, but whether it be Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, now Threads, we try to be in the mainstream social media areas. We got a link tree up on TikTok as well. People can find the shows. In the end, it's about subscribing and never miss a show and hopefully write us a review. But in the end, if you can share the show with your friends and family members. I engaged with a couple of fans out there after it was all over, and they loved the show that we do on the NHRA races, the pre-race shows and attention in the pits. And we got a great attention in the pits up, by the way, right now. The compressed air Camaro of Mark Griffin. If you haven't seen it, it was so worthy. They put it on the front page of NHRA.com this morning. Attention in the pits on NHRA.com. That's how crazy cool the car is. It has a supercharger of sorts, and that's a compressed air tank. It runs on 0 atmospheric air while going down the racetrack. If that doesn't make sense to you, good. It shouldn't. Go check out the piece. Yes, it's 14 minutes long, much longer than our Attention in the Pits normally are, because there's so many interesting, new, innovative facets to it. Go watch it. But this couple were like, yeah, we watch everything you do. And I was like, oh, do you check out the podcast? I'm like, we never heard that you have a podcast. We don't know that. And it made me feel good and also sad. Good that there's potential for growth, and sad that as hard as we're working to let people know about WFO Radio, that there are so many people that go to the races every week that just don't know that we do a show because we just don't have that massive budget that CBS has, that Fox has, that NBC has, that MRN has, that PRN has. We just don't have that budget. We are grassroots to the max. And the only way to find out about WFO Radio is by finding it accidentally or having a friend of yours put you onto it. That's it. Like this guy. Check this out. This is Kevin Luttrell, a.k.a. Sacramento Racing Fan. Kevin Luttrell has been listening to Joe Castello since my first show on XM satellite radio in 2004 and claims to have never missed a show. Kevin called in. He's a Patreon as well. He supports the show behind the scenes as a Patreon. It's a membership, of course. We promote that a little bit as best as we can. And a large group, I'll call 70 or some odd people, are supporting WFO behind the scenes with a monthly membership. And they get special benefits, like you get to co-host the Ignition Show if you want. Come on. And anyway, he was talking about Bandimere and how he would like to see it, but it's not going to work. And I leaned on him. I pressured him. I said, man, this is it. Last time. You only live once, man. And he said, you know what? And he came out there and he went to the race. And he told us on the Ignition Show, which you can go back and listen to, like what a positive experience it was. But he also shared the fact that it was his first ever NHRA national event. He had never been to a national. He'd been watching NHRA on television. He'd be listening and watching all of our WFO shows. He created a bond with all these drivers through WFO, but he had never been live and in person to an NHRA national event. We got him out there, and he bought the gear, and he spent the money, and he came out and he saw it, and he tracked me down in the pits, and it was great stuff. Like, these are the kind of fans that listen to the show and watch the show every week, and hopefully share the show. Got out there early in the week. Hagan was out there doing ride and drives. He goes on to win. We're going to try and get him on the show one of these weeks. Just short week. This is the only show of the week. Tomorrow, it's all about getting ready for Seattle, right? Dave Kramer, so happy that they were able to win something. They went out, they tested last week. Michael Heiner shared with us it was a, decent test, but they did not win in the 500 cubic inch Get Biofuel Camaro. For them to get something done and win a Wally too, in fact, amazing. But that was a big deal. Gary Stinnett Speaking of Foggett, high-performance fogging oil, Stinnett got down to 4 cars. He wasn't originally going to go until he found out it was going to be the final one, and he went out there, and everybody knew he was there, the 4-time Super Comp world champ, and just got down to the wire and came up a little bit short. Caleb. This is Caleb. He is one of our WFO radio listeners and a Patreon, and a young man who's out there, wants to be involved in the world of drag racing, getting his CDL. He's going to throw himself into the potential crew member world after he gets his CDL, because he knows that's what you got to have. You got to have your CDL. This dude drove from Ohio to be there. He drove from Ohio to be there, which is amazing. After it was all over, I was down at the top end of the racetrack. Galvin picked me up. I was, I don't know what we were doing. Oh, I was at the TV compound because I worked at NHRA on Fox this past weekend. I don't know how that went. Hopefully it went well. I love doing the NHRA on Fox whenever they call me in. I put 100% effort into doing as well as I can. And Galvin picked me up. It was his birthday. We were heading back down to do my media center obligations, and we got this photo. We got to just look at this moment from the top end of Bandimere and all the fans on the starting line, surrounding the stage, spending time, just leaving it all on the track, literally, taking it all in. The final time that we would all be there together. It was amazing. And then in the staging lanes, I saw this. Like, if that's not just the unfettered joy of drag racing and pets. All right, get your comments in the comment section, guys, while I tell you about Frank Hawley's drag racing school. The Dragster Adventure. You can drive a dragster. Why is everybody so hung up on this stuff? Well, you can find out once you drive a dragster at Frank Hawley's. So go to their website, and in fact, next week, they're going to be at Bandimere. Like, you have a chance to drive on Bandimere. Like, I don't know if they're all sold out or what, but you can call and find out. 866-480-7223 or go to frankhawley.com. They'll be there on the 24th with the Dragster Adventure, and they're doing a 2-day licensing course the 25th and 26th. And to Frank Hawley and those guys, like, if we keep adding to your list of customers, that's our job. But the chance to run on the track for the final time. Oh my goodness. Amazing, amazing stuff. And Marvin Rodak. This is one of the guys that has been with WFO Radio since the very beginning. You got to reach out to him. Go to rodaxcoffeeandgrills.com. Get yourself some coffee, some hot sauce, some spice rub, a grill. He's going to be a part of the Stampede of Speed WFO experience as he's located in Fort Worth, Texas, as we go down, and our Patreons are all meeting up at the Stampede of Speed. That is our meet. We're doing a yearly meetup everywhere. People are talking about Bristol next year. It's part of the community of WFO Patreons. rodaxcoffeeandgrills.com. Get yourself some coffee. And then, of course, samtech.edu, the School of Automotive Machinists and Technology. If you're interested in becoming an engine builder, a machinist, motorsport EFI tuner, they've got classes, and they get you started off right. They're located in the Houston area. Definitely reach out to them. And our WFO store, I found out from Monica earlier today, the WFO store is having a sale right now. You can get there in the mobile app. You can get there just by going to our website. You can get there when I tweet out the link, and there's all kinds of swag available in the WFO store, including the fire shirts. How does Clay not know about fire? But at the same time, his sisters do, and that's what matters the most to me. And we're also working on Project Pontiac, guys. All kinds of good new news about Project Pontiac as that thing comes together. In fact, today I'm going to try to get the car over to the quote-unquote chassis shop for some down bars. We will see. All right, what does everybody have to say out there? Let's get these final comments in the comment section before we get on out of here as we get ready for Pacific Raceways. And I will be staying out between Seattle and Sonoma for the first time. So what will that mean for WFO? I don't know. We'll just have to see. We're going to do something. We're not exactly sure what it is. Steve Brunwald out there mentions that Matt Smith is creeping up on the fast guys. He's almost there. Yes, Matt is not worried just yet. This gentleman says, hot tea with lemon, Alan, to save the voice. Yeah, it was a very, very tough weekend. With me being over on television, it limited my ability to be in two places at once, as much as I tried and accomplished sometimes. It's just, you can only be in two places at once. Jason Galvin was in 2 places at once. He was in Columbus and in Bandimere at the same time. It's pretty amazing. Good air in Kent, certainly. Nicole says, Seattle, still a 1-lane racetrack. 1 to get in, 1 to get out. Horrible to enter. Haha, the witty humor there, Nicole. But that having been said, excellent point. 7:25 a.m. Sunday morning. Joe is so far ahead of the schedule, feeling great, going to the race. And as I start to get off the highway, run into traffic about a mile back from the turnoff. Heart attack moment. I made it on time, made my call, no problem. But when the traffic starts at 7:30 a.m., you know something's up. I will definitely be getting into Pacific Raceways very early. Maybe I will just sleep there. Let's see. Just ask Ashley and Corney about that left lane. Yeah, no, see, that's not true anymore. They have fixed it. But yes, 1-lane racetracks are a bad thing. Fortunately, I think on the tour, we don't really have that problem. Most facilities have fixed their track surfaces, and the ones that haven't are in the process of working out when they will. Nicholas goes on to say, thank you, Joe. Love your show. Great drag racing infotainment. Infotainment. Way to go, Nicholas. That's exactly what it is. It's entertainment, but it's hopefully informative. And we have a sponsor or two. AJ, Dave and Sue Morris going to be racing up at Maple Grove this weekend, guys, for fans of Morris Motorsports. This person was at Phoenix for the final, but were you? You sure about that? I don't know. I'm hearing rumors. Jim Essex, when I stopped at Bandimere for photos on my way to Joliet this spring, the place was dead silence, save for a weed eater at the entrance. It felt mystic. Yeah, it really was a sad experience. It was sad and happy all at once, seeing a 3-day sellout with a massive crowd that was absolute to capacity. They weren't allowed to sell any more tickets. People did get turned away who were not with ticket by Saturday or Sunday morning. Amazing stuff. Bob, saw that picture with Penny, man. Good deal. Keep fighting. Bobby Bender. Internet is great. Only problem is that so random online being able to catch a show at the right time. That's not true, Rush fan. They are all on demand in the WFO Radio mobile app. If you subscribe on YouTube, a notification goes out for every show. You'll never miss one. You just watch it on your phone. Never miss a show. Another great show by Joe Castello. Thank you very much. Tracy, NHRA fans are the best, certainly. Great time hanging out with you guys in the pit, even for 2 minutes. A very valuable 2 minutes, Trace. So thank you and Lee for spending time. Because for me, like, it's those moments. I see a name on here. Obviously, we've communicated through social, but spending a few minutes in the pit area changes everything. Thank you very much. Meat. I don't know what he says, but I like it. Great show, Joe. Thanks for getting Clay on this week. Thanks to Clay for coming on this week. It was like a desperation text right before the show. Great job, Jet Car Joe. Thank you very much. Yeah, I felt like I did good. I felt like I brought it with the FIA. And yeah, the FIA shirts are available on sale. Just $16 right now in the WFO store. Go hit it. Get yourself FIA right here. And maybe Clay will learn, right? He'll learn a little bit. Dragster Jeff saying, thank you for what you do. He is a Patreon. Thank you for what you do. Thanks. Great show today. Everybody is like, too much positivity, guys. Don't you know the audience rejects positivity? Like, you can't have 100% positive because, their primitive human minds reject the perfection of that. Somebody should say something negative so everyone understands that it's reality. My legs are still sore from the hills, says the Yeti. This is the Yeti who drove 10 hours. And yeah. I walked back and forth to the TV compound 8 times, half mile each. I'm a little wore out as well. I hope those rumors prove to be true. Yeah. And I will be excited if that is, in fact, the case. Down here in South Florida, we're trying our best to get a new track up and running. Hopefully, the Bandimeres can build the Nitro Dome, the first retractable roof, fully enclosed, air-conditioned racetrack out there by the airport in Denver. The Nitro Dome. This is mostly a joke, guys. I don't care if it's domed. It doesn't have to have air conditioning. It should have the first covered grandstand, though. With a premium ticket, covered grandstand. But I'm not complaining. Any new track, even if it was just standing room only, would be okay. Tracer Jeff says, I'm glad I got to go to Denver. Can't wait to see the new facility. I hope there is. I am not holding the Bandimere family to anything. Their service to NHRA drag racing is unquestioned. If they decided to not, they've done great things for our sport already. But somebody should. You've got a market that loves drag racing. You've got hundreds, if not thousands, of racers. And oh, by the way, just so everybody knows and understands, the track is open until October. If you missed this, you can go still support. You can race. You can bracket race. You can be a part of it. You can thank the family. You can be there. Bandimere is open till October, and you'll even be able to drive through and watch the Christmas lights, Tammy told us, around the holidays. So that is great stuff. But yeah, they're still open with their program. Congratulations to Clay and the entire team. Yeah, control the DA. Not if you have a compressed air supercharger. Everybody should go and watch Attention in the Pits, by the way, and check out that amazing innovation, compressed air supercharging. All right, guys, this was a premonition. It turned out to be true for all 3 days. Thank you for sharing the show. Appreciate you. See you in Seattle.